Hello, and welcome to the Metta Hour podcast with Sharon Salzberg. I'm Lily Cushman. I produce this podcast, and today we are returning to our kids series with episode 276. Sharon is joined today by the three co-founders of the Holistic Life Foundation, Gonzales and Atman Smith and Andres Gonzales. This series, if you're just tuning into it for the first time, is in honor of Sharon's very first children's book, written with Jason Gruhl. It's an illustrated book for 4 to 8-year-olds called Kind Karl, a little crocodile with big feelings. And if you're hearing this episode today on December 9th, 2025, today is pub date for the book. So we're very, very excited to introduce Karl to the world. And this podcast series is something we wanted to do to just further explore and highlight the various teachers, caregivers, providers who all specialize in the realm of kids and mindfulness, as well as the way that these tools can support the family systems around children. So this is the 4th episode in the series, and you may already be familiar with the guys from the Holistic Life Foundation. They've been on the podcast several times before. Sharon has taught with them for many years, and they really have an incredible track record working with young people. They started the Holistic Life Foundation in 2001, which is a nonprofit that brings yoga, meditation, and breath work to thousands of at-risk children. They started in Baltimore. They now work in just a wide swath of different communities. And their work has really garnered a tremendous amount of national attention because of the results that they've had in the schools they work with. Suspension rates are dropping dramatically, and the graduation rates are skyrocketing. So we really wanted to include the guys in this kids series because their work is so incredible. In this conversation, Andy, Ali, and Atman talk about the creation of HLF and their own experiences learning to meditate very early in life. They share about the work they have done in underserved communities and their various retreats and certification programs. They discuss the importance of sharing love and the many benefits of mindfulness for kids. They also speak about the ways that they're partnering with school systems and how these practices need to be modified for younger minds. The episode closes with some discussion about the role of caregiving and this emphasis on caring for oneself in order to better care for another. So before we get into it, I want to just tell you a little bit more about Kind Karl. So Karl is a crocodile. He lives in Orlando. He loves his special cardigan. He loves crepes. He loves combing his hair. But he also has a pretty hot temper. He's a bit of a grump. And so we go on a journey with Karl as he learns to navigate his big feelings, as he asks some kind of big questions about if it really makes a difference, what we say, what we do, what we care about. So it's a very unassuming introduction for children to start to look inward with greater curiosity and kindness. So it's been a real delight for Sharon to kind of bring her body of teachings to a younger generation, and also just a great way for anyone who has a young person in their life to share these teachings that have made such a difference in our own lives to some young ones around us. So you can head over to the website if you want to order the book, or just check out some of the different resources we have there at sharonsalzberg.com. Okay, so let's get into episode 276, our kids series here on the Metta Hour. Sharon Salzberg and the Holistic Life Foundation.
Hi, I'm here with the wonderful founders of the Holistic Life Foundation, Ali Smith, Andres Gonzales, and Atman Smith. So welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, Sharon, thanks for having us.
Great to be back.
I'm so happy. Are you all on the East Coast right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're on the same place, actually. You guys are in Baltimore too,
You're
right?
all in Baltimore?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm in Barre, Massachusetts, where it's really autumn, like at the moment that we're recording.
And then it looks beautiful, all the leaves right now.
Yeah, it's quite nice. I want to thank you so much for being here with me today. It's wonderful to have you back as part of the series we're doing on the podcast. Of course, your work bringing meditation and yoga to underserved kids has long been an inspiration to me, and we've been friends for many, many years now. But it's kind of a full circle moment since I now have co-authored a children's book, which is the first time that's happened.
We're really excited about that, and how we do work with a lot of kids, so we would love to be able to share your work with our young people.
That would make me so happy. I know you founded the Holistic Life Foundation over 20 years ago, and I wonder if one of you can give our listeners who maybe don't know your story, kind of a brief version of how HLF came to be and what your mission is today. And actually, I'm curious, do you feel your mission has changed since you first started?
So I guess I can jump in with that. So I think the Holistic Life Foundation started probably in like the early 60s when our godfather first learned yoga. Uncle Will is our teacher, and our godfather learned yoga in the early 60s and never ever got out of it. He was one of those people that was like, he wasn't a teacher. He was like, the practice would just flow through him. It was really dope to be around him because he was just a wealth of information on many, many different forms of yoga. He got me and Atman's dad into yoga after a prostate issue. And our dad decided that me and Atman were going to meditate in the mornings before school. At that point, we were doing transcendental meditation, and we grew up in a self-realization fellowship church. So like yoga was around us as kids. As our parents split up, our yoga practice kind of went by the wayside. Actually, we were just meditating at that point. Our meditation practice just kind of went by the wayside. Probably when I was in 4th grade and Atman was in 2nd grade. And then fast forward, we met Andy at the University of Maryland College Park. And as we were finishing up, we were trying to figure out what we were going to do with our lives, like what we were going to do other than, get a degree, get a job, get married, have some kids, retire, and die. We were like, there has to be more to the human experience than that. We saw a lot of suffering, so we wanted to do something to alleviate the suffering. So, a lot of things transpired. We went back to Uncle Will. He agreed to teach us under 2 circumstances. One, that we agreed to teach as many people as possible, just because he didn't want to be bothered for real. Like he loved his kind of recluse lifestyle where he could just sit in his house and practice and listen to jazz and teach us and help people that would kind of randomly show up at his door. Because he was like the East Baltimore witch doctor, you know what I mean? Like people would come by if they were sick, and he would have like some herbal remedies, some juice, some vegetable mantra, and some meditation and some breath, and like he would help people heal themselves up. And then so we learned the yoga from Uncle Will. And I guess the second one thing was be at his front door at 4 a.m. the next day to start learning. And then our dad was one of those people that was really heavy into entrepreneurship. He didn't want us to go get jobs because we would have to face like racism in the workforce. We'd have to face like that glass ceiling that a lot of people of color have in the corporate arena. So, he was like, why don't you guys start your own business? You guys can hire people that look like you. You guys won't have to deal with the racism in a way that's going to hold you back. And, so like the combination of us starting our own business and the yoga came to the Holistic Life Foundation. We started the Holistic Life Foundation. Actually, it's funny, when we first started, we had like these 7 pillars of the Holistic Life Foundation, and more of them were environmental work than the yoga, mindfulness, meditation, and breathwork stuff. But as we started to grow, we realized a lot more people were doing environmental work, but not many people were doing what we were doing in the communities we were doing it in. So I think we started off, our goal then and now has always been to empower people with the practice, to be able to, because that's the way that Uncle Will taught us. He always told us he wasn't going to teach. He didn't want devotees. He wanted to teach teachers. And that's the way that we kind of went about with our reciprocal teaching model was, it's always been to teach people to be teachers so they can go out and change their communities, and then be empowered by the practice. So I think that's always been our goal. Our goal has always been to help empower the entire planet, as many people as we can, as many communities as we can. We start off, really small in West Baltimore, and things have grown from Baltimore to Baltimore County to our satellite program to our programs in other cities. But the mission has always been the same.
I want to read a couple of statistics about HLF to give our listeners a sense of your impact. You've served over 200,000 students and adults in more than 100 schools and communities nationwide. And Baltimore City Public Schools alone, you currently serve over 5,000 students a week through yoga, mindfulness, and health programs. And this is just phenomenal. I'm curious how your approach to working with kids has evolved over the years. Andy, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that we noticed the most about how our approach has evolved is the manner in which we now kind of lead the students or any participants through these practices. I think now we're much more trauma informed when we're leading. I think when we first got started, we're in Baltimore City, and the way I always kind of hear all of us kind of say it is like, for a little while, we just thought that there's a bunch of bad kids, like they're just like, God, these kids' behavior issues are just reckless and it's horrible. And, come to find out, that's not really what was going on. A lot of them were either going through trauma or had faced trauma in some way, shape, or form. It could have been intergenerational trauma. It's stuff that's going on with their neighborhood, with their family and their community. I think that after we kind of took a step back and saw what was really going on, I think that that's when we decided to kind of shift just subtly some of the practices and the way we were doing things, where we weren't telling kids to close their eyes. We were inviting them to close their eyes, using very particular language when speaking to students or adults. I also think just in terms of creating a safe space and container when facilitating whatever program it was that we were doing, just again, doing it all in a trauma-informed manner. So being very specific with our language, our setup, and just the way we delivered the practice. I think before, when we first started, we were kind of doing that anyways. But I think that it got to a point where it really kind of hit us like, oh, wow, like this needs to be done this way for it to be the most effective and efficient. And I think that once we started doing that, I think it really kind of just really improved everything that we were doing. And I think it really allowed the practices to set in and sink in to all the participants and really make more of an impact.
I can remember, I should tell first the listeners that, I've had the chance to teach with the three of you, not in the school systems, but in various retreat settings or workshops, and often for people we call caregivers, people who are in a way on the front lines of suffering and taking care of others, either in their families or professionally. And I remember one of you telling a story about bringing in a teacher or a speaker to one of the school programs, and they were just living in the world of assumption, as we generally do, and said something like, of course, when you turn on the hot water, and one of the kids said, I don't have any hot water. And realizing, just how much these kids have gone through and are going through, and that it's a world in itself that really demands a lot of sensitivity. And I also was recently talking to Susan Kaiser Greenland for this podcast, and we were talking about how one of the loving kindness phrases, if you're doing loving kindness meditation, is may you be safe, or may I be safe. And I actually thought of you guys right in that moment as I was speaking to her, and I thought would be really powerful, with a group or an individual, a little kid who doesn't feel safe at all, how to evoke some of that sense. And I think you evoke it through the community that you create.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that. I remember that made me think of a story how, when we were first doing the work, like Ali said, Uncle Will got us into our practice. So we were really, doing all the breath work and the movement, meditating, and just, we were in it, like almost like hermits in a cave, but in Northwest Baltimore. And I remember thinking, in order to meditate, you have to close your eyes. Like, like, how you gonna meditate with your eyes open? And I was like, a way of thinking when we first were getting started. And it was the kids that taught us that you didn't, because there was the one young gentleman in the after school program, and you could see how uncomfortable he was with closing his eyes. He just didn't feel safe. And it was interesting to be like, well, hey, I'd lay down next to him, like, well, let's just look up at the rafters in the gym and let's just stare. So you're still being one pointed. You're still focusing your attention on one thing, and you don't have to have your eyes closed. And I think those are all the small little nuances that, as we kept leading and working with students, that we found out, like, hey, it's not one shoe fits all. Everyone has their own way of doing stuff, or ways that resonate with them, and just trying to make sure that we make them feel as safe as possible so that they can take to the practice better.
And Sharon, I remember what you were talking about. You were talking about our buddy, our brother Christopher, when he was working in Africa and India in the slums. He was going around and he saw how people didn't have electricity, people didn't have running water, people didn't have light, they didn't have a lot of the things that people take for granted in the States. And when he came back to the States, he went all around the nation doing presentations on gratitude. And then when he came to West Baltimore to our school, he was telling our kids that they have a lot to be grateful for, even though they're going through a lot in life. You all have lights, y'all have running water, y'all have sewage that, if you flush your toilet, it goes somewhere. And one of the kids turned around and looked at me and was like, so is he telling me I don't have anything to be thankful for? Because everything that he said I should be thankful for, we don't have. And after the presentation, we talked to Christopher and we told him about the situation that this little boy is going through. And he was like, well, that's not even possible. We're in America. There's no way that goes on. There's no way. And it really blew his mind that, people in America were struggling like people were in the slums of, Africa and India. And, I think one of the things that, like you were saying about safety, a lot of kids and people in general that are from, certain areas, especially where, Ali and I grew up at, that sense of peace, sense of safety is not there. So I think that's one of the beautiful things about having the practice, being able to meditate, is because if your outward world is chaotic, you can still tap into inner peace. And if you know how to get to that inner peace with the breath or a specific meditation, then that's something that's with you forever and no one can ever take it from you. And, it could lead you back to being grounded, present, even though, your outward world is chaotic. If you can tap into that inner peace, that's priceless.
It's really beautiful. I was about to ask you, Atman, since your programs are described as trauma-informed yoga and mindfulness, I also remember teaching with you all once, and one of you said, well, often in meditation instruction with adults, so these long periods of silence, but if you're trying to have a trauma-informed approach, you might keep talking, some, and have the instructions be more frequent so that people aren't just feeling abandoned, to the workings of their own mind. So I wonder if there are a couple of other things you might mention.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like you were saying, like when there is space in, practices, whether it's meditation or breathing practices, it does allow for a vacuum of trauma to pop up. And, that's why we talk the entire time with our guided meditations, just because it's like, if you let somebody drive, they can go anywhere while they're driving. But if you are the designated driver, you're taking them to a specific destination. And that's what we do in our guided meditations. I know sometimes, when I'm leading, our variation of the loving kindness practice, I'm talking the entire time. And I know some people are like, man, can you just please be quiet? But honestly, it's really intentional why we talk the entire time, just because, we are filling that space to not allow that vacuum of trauma to pop up. And then it's other things that we do also, like, if there is a retention in a breathing practice, we count. We don't count up, because if you count up, people don't know when the end is coming, and it may cause anxiety. We count backwards just so people know and when the end is there. You know what I mean? So I mean, there are so many different ways that and like we don't make any adjustments if we're doing like physical practices. Like, people who have been through trauma always have their power taken away from them. So we allow our the people who are practicing with us to express the poses however they want to. We can show them how to do the proper practice and how to do it properly and all that stuff, but it's on them. Eventually they'll get it right, but we definitely don't put our hands on them and make any adjustments, just because once again, we want the body to feel safe, and we want to empower them and not take their power away. So those are a couple ways that we kind of make the physical practice trauma informed, the breathing practice is trauma informed, and even the meditations trauma informed.
That's really great. And I think the concept of empowerment is really key. Like even in writing the book about the crocodile, Karl, who learns to be kind, a lot of it is about empowerment and seeing that, yeah, I have these really crummy thoughts, but you know what? I don't have to like dwell in them and let them take over and, live in that environment. Like, yeah, I don't have to hate them or be afraid of them, but I can learn to let those thoughts go and remember some other things that are good, good about me, even. And it's really, so many times if we're interpreting the teachings, it can seem like perfectionism or trying to be a person you're not or something like that. But really, it's just so empowering to realize that we can have tools and we can deal with the thoughts and emotions that will come up in us. So as you're expanding beyond Baltimore to cities like Chicago and Denver, what are the core elements of your model that really have to stay the same wherever you go?
I mean, I think we have like certain components which uphold the fidelity of our programming, like in our mindful moment program, which is the most impactful program that we have, school-based program. It is, you may see a viral article that comes out every once in a while that talks about changing attention to meditation. That's our mindful moment program. And we have certain components that make it impactful, like from having a school-wide practice being led over the loudspeaker at the beginning of the day, to having that alternative to suspension room when students are in crisis. They can come in there, and we have staff staffing that room, so when they come in there, we're not counselors, so we don't counsel them. All we do is like actively listen and mirror them when they first come in, talking about why they're in the room, which once again is empowering. Then we'll talk to them about stress. Stress is how the stress plays out in their body, whether they clench their fist, clench their jaw, fold their arms, play with their hair, shift their weight. What do they do when they are stressed out? And then, we'll talk to them about, we'll do a breathing practice with them to help them get back to being grounded, present, and achieve homeostasis. And then after we do that, we'll remind the young people that, next time that stressor is in your life or is around you, whether it's a teacher or a classmate, or next time you feel that stress playing out in your body, try to do this practice. And it may not happen overnight, but eventually kids do learn how to self-regulate. Then we also do push-ins into classrooms where, if there are substitute teachers in the school, kids eat substitute teachers up. They try to act as wild as possible with those substitute teachers. We'll go in there and at the beginning of the day and get the class grounded, whether it's, after lunchtime, after transitions, we'll go in there and work with the classes to kind of, reel them back in and get them grounded and present. Or if it's a time where the class needs to pick up their energy, we'll go in there also and do certain practices that do that. Then we also have an ambassador program where we train a certain percentage of the student population in how to actually teach the practices. So eventually they can lead the practices that we do over the loudspeaker. And then there's a teacher component also where, we will, during like the professional developments and the department meetings, we'll go in there and work with the teachers on self-care, because secondary trauma and teacher turnover and burnout is a real thing. So, we'll work with them and give them techniques for self-care. And then we also meet with like the behavioral specialists to know, who's on their docket and who we need to spend a little bit of extra attention to try to help them heal from their trauma. And, as long as all those different components are being done, then our program works. It, brings down suspensions, brings up attendance, brings up test score. And right now we're doing a study with this third party evaluator, pair partnerships in education and resilience. And they're looking at how these practices help heal trauma from the teacher's point of view and from the student's point of view, where, they talk about, how much more connected the students are to each other, to their school, how much more self-worth they have, how much they love each other, how much are they teaching other classmates and family and stuff, like all stuff that we know anecdotally was going on, but we're getting some empirical evidence to show the change that this program is having on the teachers and the students.
And Andy, I actually have two questions for you. One is, can you say something about the 400-hour certification program that you're offering?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so right now we are offering an amazing 400-hour certification program. It's a online platform that Ali Atman and I created. There's a multitude of videos. Goodness, I would say almost 50 to 70 videos of individual practices. There's monthly modules where you go online. We have a in-person retreat, starts it off. So we'll do like a weekend with all the attendees, just introduce ourselves to them, get them to know who we are a little more, kind of our teaching style and some of the ways that we do things. And then every month they'll go through these modules where we have these recordings, like I had said before, and they can meet up with us monthly too. So we'll do a check-in with the students and just see how they're doing, see if they have any questions, if they want to go a little more in depth with some of the practices, so on and so forth. And it's going really, really well. We've already I think we're 8 modules through in the Baltimore cohort. We'll be going to Santa Monica soon at the end of this week to start that one. We have another one in LA. We have one in Ohio. We have one in Denver. Gentlemen, did I miss any of the ones? Is that all of the ones that we have that are coming up?
We have one in Austin as well.
There you go, Austin. And then there's potential that we might actually be doing one in Australia too, which is really, really
Whoa.
Yeah, right. So
well, that's not close to Barry, so
that's close, no. But it's extremely thorough. I mean, we've taken the 20-some years of our experience and tried to give any and everything that we've learned, whether it's the pitfalls that we faced and that we've learned from, or just the teaching tools and strategies and techniques that we've seen throughout the years that have really been effective and efficient. So not only does it help you build up your own practice, but it also then teaches you how to do it appropriately and to make it sustainable. And I think it's going to be a very, very powerful tool for everyone that takes part of it. Some people hopefully will then join the HLF family, and after they become certified, if they want to start working with us and complementing the programs that we have in their cities, and we can build that way as well. Or they can just go ahead and take what they've learned and just do their own thing, because ultimately that's what HLF is about. We're just here to be a resource for people, to support individuals and keep, reminding people about these practices and how important they are and the impacts they can have not only for themselves, but in their communities.
It's fantastic. And before I turn to Ali with a series of questions, while I have you, Andy, I just want to talk about loving kindness or love, because I know that you often would say to the kids, I love you, and that would totally weird them out. But it seems to me that in the container that you are creating, that essentially it is a quality of love that is what's permeating everything.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Uncle Will I could always hear him say LOVE, LOVE, and love is the most powerful force in the universe. And I think that's
we also teach a retreat online.
yeah,
Love is the most powerful force in the universe.
heck yeah. And I think that Uncle always said to us all the time, and I think that it's soaked into us, and we embody that. I think, and we exemplify, culminate, leading from a place of love. I think is a big part of what we talk about when we go anywhere and everywhere. And I think that people can feel the love that Ali Atman and I have, and I think it's a big part of why we started the Holistic Life Foundation. We saw a lot of suffering in the world, and we didn't think anyone was doing anything about it. And we thought, hey, we're going to make a change. We're going to be superheroes. We're going to go out here and try to save the world. And, we learned early that it takes more than just the three of us. And I think that's why the organization has been striving, because we keep bringing in more and more people. And I think, honestly, the universe keeps bringing us the right people to make it happen. And I think a big part is just leading with love and understanding how important that is. And, I think Ali Atman and I, all of us were very blessed to have very loving families. I think that love was very present in our households when we were younger. And you can see how some kids, unfortunately, a lot of kids don't have that same benefit. And it's tough when you're not feeling that love. And then you can see how when you don't have that, and then someone gives that to you, the difference that it can make. And I think we see that all the time, because we come in and we're always bringing love. And we're doing this work because we just want to help. And that's how it's always been. The first 8 years of our work, we did everything for free, and people were calling us crazy and asking us when we're going to get a real job. And, I think no matter what, this is something that Ali Atman and I were going to do, is kind of like our ultimate mission in life. And no matter what happened with HLF, whether we were getting paid or not, we were going to keep spreading this love and keep spreading these techniques. And I think it ultimately came from us experiencing the impact that these techniques and practices had on us, and how it transformed us, and how it made us be able to see that light, like in our book, let your light shine. The light that is within me is the same light within everyone and everything. And it's much easier to love everybody if you start looking at the world through that lens, and you start, thinking, when you start just looking at the world kind of like, if everyone is me, then why wouldn't I just love everyone?
Mm-hmm.
It's a simple concept, really, really is. And I think it's difficult for people to be able to realize that and to see that light within everyone and everything, especially because, you need to love the quote unquote bad people, people that kind of frustrate you or upset you or do evil things. And you still need to love them, because you can't just everyone. It can't be that you are everyone except for the people that you don't like.
Creepy people. Yeah, well, we're going to go into that again in a little bit.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And Ali, as meditation has become more popular, and we see it like in your work, in different institutions, but I'm really curious about your experiences collaborating with the education system, and how you see mindfulness practice, first of all, enhancing traditional education potentially, but what are the biggest financial, institutional, or cultural barriers to bringing mindfulness into public schools?
Great question. So I think public schools, or just schools in general, have given us the opportunity to work with the most amount of people. Schools range in size from a couple hundred to a couple thousand. And pretty much everyone has to be there. And we were creative with the program that Atman mentioned, that Mindful Moment program, and being able to affect the entire school on different levels of intervention, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, as a whole, in small groups and individually. I think there's a lot of ways that it enhances just the school culture, climate, and school-based outcomes. Kids are constantly being bombarded with a lot of stimulus, whether it's stuff from outside of them, whether it's social media, whether it's TV, whether it's their neighborhood, whether it's just their thoughts racing. And I can't remember if Atman and Andy mentioned this. I think it was Atman that mentioned the place of stillness within them. And if you can give them that place of stillness and being able to slow their mind down a little bit and give them those pauses, it does a lot of good. 'Cause it's terrible being in a situation where your mind is constantly racing, and you don't feel like there's anything you can do about it. You're just kind of at a slave, like kind of a slave to your thoughts and what your mind is doing. But I think just empowering kids with those tools, be able to kind of slow down and be still, helps in a lot of different ways, particularly with academic outcomes, when we're talking about schools, but also those interactions that they might have with people that might be kind of at a low vibration. So like an interaction where they might, in the past, they might have just kind of reacted to somebody doing something. There was a fight, there was an argument, you said something to bring somebody down, you hurt somebody, whatever happened. Those things were just reactions. But I think that stillness gives them a chance, like even if it's just a split second, to take that breath and respond to it and do something that's going to be more uplifting, or something that's not where they're not going to have punitive circumstances from it happening, and just be more in control of what's going on around them. I think us giving, but and that helps to lead to improved suspension and detention outcomes, because again, those interactions where the kids are impulsively reacting, like they can slow down and respond to them and not get themselves in trouble. I think the things that we're doing are helping kids heal from trauma, and trauma looks a lot like bad behavior in schools. The lack of focus, the lack of self-control, the lack of being able to kind of keep things organized, just like that fight or flight all the time. And it looks like bad behavior, but we, like Andy was saying, we noticed a long time ago that there weren't really that most of the behavior problems that we were dealing with were trauma issues. So if we were empowering the kids to heal from their trauma, that helps out in the classroom as well. I think just that love, this self-love in particular, like getting kids to connect themselves to themselves and love themselves. They have to love themselves before they love anything or anyone around them. So you can't ask them to be compassionate and caring about their classmates or their teacher or their school environment if they don't love themselves first. So getting to connect to themselves and love themselves is probably the thing that makes that huge shift, because then they start to see and feel that love and that compassion for the people around them. I think some of the biggest challenges financially, I think just the school budget cuts. With all the federal cuts, it's definitely impacted our programs. We've had to cut back some of the level of programming that we have in some of our schools. Which stinks, because I mean, we're doing great work at those schools. We're helping a lot of kids. We're helping a lot of families, a lot of teachers. But that has hurt. And just school budgets in general. Even before the budget cuts, I think schools don't have huge budgets. They're kind of working on like a shoestring budget right now. And then they're being graded on how well they can get kids to pass tests. And a lot of teachers, I guess a lot of administrators don't see how the benefit of mindfulness in helping kids pass tests. But I mean, there's huge benefits in helping kids pass tests, even if it's just helping them to not have test anxiety and relax a little bit and perform better, or just being able to focus a little more, or just stay calm. And culturally, I don't think we've really had any cultural issues around getting the practice in the schools. We're very, very good about our language and our verbiage, and not using any of the Sanskrit or spiritual practices or mantras. But like our personal practice looks way, way, way different than what we teach in schools, just because we know what we can and can't teach in the schools. We don't want to scare anyone away. We just teach them as complementary practices around the breath and meditation and movement and mindfulness that can help you ease your suffering. We strictly stick to the physiological, neurological, emotional, and mental benefits of the practices, and don't get into any of the spiritual stuff. So I think culturally, we haven't really had any issues working in the schools.
And are you always invited by a particular school, or just sometimes like a superior or supervisor inform the school that you're coming in?
Sometimes it's district and sometimes it's a school. So we may go to a district, might contact us and say, hey, we have these schools we want you to work in. We've had school principals that reach out. I think the cool thing about it is it doesn't really matter who refers us, as long as the principal's bought in, the program can succeed. If we work with schools where the principal has not been brought in, has not been like totally engaged and on board with what we're doing, and it never works. So like, as long as the principal's like, yeah, I want this for my students, I want this for my teachers, we can make it work.
So that makes me curious about what role partnerships like with school districts and community centers or institutions play in the sustainability of HLF. I'm also, since you brought up funding cuts, I'm wondering if people are privately funding some of these programs for their neighborhood or something like that.
I think one of the beautiful things about what has happened during these federal budget cuts is private philanthropists and foundations have been stepping up big time. You know, a lot of foundations have been giving us uh, sometimes double what they have given us in the past. And some of the individuals that have been donating to us through the years have really opened up their bank account to be able to support our work, because they do see the importance of what we do and being able to deliver the programs with, high fidelity. Even though, once again, the budgets were cut, some foundations have and private philanthropists have stepped their game up to be able to support us, to be able to deliver our programs at the same high fidelity that they were, before. There, like I always said, there are still some holes in some of our programs, but we were able to relaunch our program at the school that me and Ali's mom went to in our old neighborhood, and we went from having no staff there to having we have one staff now, and then this other philanthropist gave us the rest of the funding to be able to start our second staff, and they're starting at the I guess in the middle of this week. So there are still budget cuts, like I said, but luckily people's hearts are opening up and supporting what we're doing.
I'm really, really glad. I'm wondering if you can also share with me, since the book, Kind to Karl, is really meant for kids like in the 4 to 8-year-old range, although I'm curious as to how adults are going to react to it. I'm wondering if you could share some specifics of how you would begin working with younger kids, like a 4-year-old or 5-year-old comes into the program.
I mean, when we are working with the younger kids, we just have to kind of have more like themed classes. Like, it may be, all right, we're going to do animal poses, or we're going to do, poses that have to do with nature. Our classes might not, in middle school, high school, elementary school, they might be hour-long classes, but, we'll shorten the time frame for the younger classes to maybe like 20, 30 minutes. Just because if it's anything over that, they'll lose interest. Then, we also have these things called breathing buddies, where, either they're like Beanie Babies or, a toy or something like that, where kids can lay them on their stomachs. And while they're laying down, when they breathe in, you tell them, watch your breathing buddy or belly buddy rise up. So it makes them manipulate their stomach. And then when they exhale, tell them to watch their breathing buddy or belly buddy go down. So it kind of teaches them how to manipulate their stomach. And then also can act as those toys, or those stuffed animals can act as a trigger to kind of help remind them to go within with the breath. So, that's how, we work with those 4-year-olds, those younger kids, is making them shorter, themed classes, and then those breathing and belly buddies.
It's so great. And let's go back to love for a moment, our favorite topic. We do teach together online, or have every year through the Garrison Institute, a course called Love is the Greatest Force in the Universe, or the Most Powerful Force in the Universe. And one of the really difficult things about championing love, and by extension, loving kindness meditation, whether you're teaching kids or adults, is that it sounds so stupid. Like, what do you mean love? Or, I don't even like that person. Or, what do you mean love or loving kindness? It's so sentimental, it's so gooey, and you're not going to, really look at pain or difficulty. And what do you mean love? And so I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the presentation of love or loving kindness meditation as a superpower, and what you find to be the biggest hurdles in teaching the power of love and connection these days.
I think with us, love I don't think we really sit and talk about love. I think it's more something that's embodied with us,
Mm-hmm.
and then we model it with how we treat ourselves, each other, and the people around us. Like the kids see it, and they start to learn from it that way. Because I mean, like I know when we were running our after school program, just get three of us actually there doing it daily. I don't really remember having any conversations about love, but the kids were seeing love in action through the service that we were doing, through tough situations when people are trying to fight us, and we would still come from a place of love. And I think that's how they were learning what love was. And I think, at least for kids these days, um, I think the lack of authentic connections and the isolation
Mm-hmm.
is kind of keeping them from loving themselves and then in turn loving others. I know I talk to my sons a lot about like I'll press the issue with them hanging out with their friends in person because like they'll be playing video games with their friends online. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what me and your uncle used to do. We used to get all our friends. We used to pack ourselves in your grandmother's basement, and we would sit in a room with two controllers and talk and hang out for an entire weekend. And that's how we play video games. What you all are doing it's not really interacting. So I think
Yeah.
kids need those authentic, like person to person interactions that they're not getting, and not just like like quick texts, but like conversations. And the kids and kids are doing those interactions, but they still feel really, really isolated. And that makes them feel lonely, and then it kind of zaps that self love. Like they just feel like they're totally alone. So I think we try to do as much as we can to kind of force those conversations and person to person interactions so they do feel connected to themselves and to other people, but in a really authentic and human to human way.
And at what point do you introduce actually a loving kindness meditation?
Ivan usually starts that on like day one. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
yeah. So there it is.
Nah, he don't. I mean, he doesn't mess around with that one. Like that's like something that we start with right away because it has so many beautiful impacts on the young people. And like he said, he teaches in a very trauma informed way where there's no silence at all. So the
Mm-hmm.
kids feel safe. They feel held, and it's like they find that inner peace. But it's a safe inner peace that's kind of being protected for them, not like that vacuum space inner peace or inner like silence where
Yeah.
all that trauma can come up and they try to hide from that inner place where the peace should be, but because they've been so traumatized.
Outman, do you want to say anything else about that?
Yeah, I mean, like Ali was saying a little earlier, like a lot of people come to, the hood, underserved communities, and they try to figure out. They try to like, they judge a lot of the kids. They see how they don't care about their environment. They see how they're disrespecting their friends. They see how they're disrespecting their family, disrespecting their teacher. But it's hard to get people to care about anything or anyone if they don't care about themselves. And one thing I've seen with the loving kindness practice is kids do start to fill up their inner foundation full of self-love and taking care of themselves. And once they start loving themselves, that empathy develops and they start loving other people and the environment, and want to do community cleanups we've seen kids want to do. And even when we had the uprising in Baltimore with the Freddie Gray thing. Like, uh, everybody always asked us, like, did you all check on your kids? Did you all check on the kids in your program? Because that's y'all community that went up, that got looted and destroyed. And we were like, no, our kids kind of like love us so much. They checked up on us, made sure we were good. Then they went outside and actually cleaned up their neighborhood because they actually did care about things outside of themselves. And then another aspect of the loving kindness practice that we usually say it's neuroplasticity in action is when
Mm-hmm.
kids that rewiring of your brain. It's like when kids don't know how to peacefully resolve conflict on day one of our program, but then we have a part of the loving kindness practice where you're sending love to those people that stress you out or make you angry. It starts off being hard for kids or hard for people in general, but with practice, the practices are not perfect. So you eventually get it if you stick with it. So eventually, the kids learn to be able to, when people pop up in their mind and try to push their buttons, instead of reacting, they respond and they just send those people love. And, when kids are able to do that, they feel so empowered. They come up to us and let us know, like, hey, so-and-so pushed my buttons, and, I ain't even let them get me mad. All I did was send them love and keep it moving. So like, stuff like that, you can see they're rewiring their brain with these practices. And, and it's so important, loving yourself, loving the people that you love, and then even loving those people, like we just said, just to stress you out and make you angry. That makes you, not not being able to rent space in your mind, because people may have done something wrong to you, yesterday, last week, last month, last year, a decade ago, and they're still renting space in your mind. But I think one of the beautiful things about sending people love, who stress you out or make you angry, is, they will not, you can evict them from renting space in your mind. And then, they say in yoga, they call them sanskaras, or habit patterns. And the more you feed habit patterns, the more, it becomes a habit. But the less you feed it, eventually it fall off like a scab. So that's what usually happens when you feed love to those people that stress you out. They stop running space in your mind, and they eventually fall away like a scab.
So great. And Andy, I want to talk to you about the other retreat that we teach together every year, which is for caregivers, for the Garrison Institute. Not so much about the retreat, but about caregiving. So teachers and parents, and how many times your program kind of spreads from the kids to those who are trying to serve them in some way. And what does that look like?
Yeah, I think a big part of that, I think a big part of what that looks like, it stems from our reciprocal teaching model, right?
Mm-hmm.
The idea that Uncle Will kind of embedded into us when he said, hey, I'm not teaching any devotees. He's like, y'all gonna be teachers if I teach you this. And I think that since we kind of took that and ran with it, I think that's why we have such an impact in the community, and the surrounding area, because we're teaching the kids to literally be teachers. And then they go home and they'll see their mother stressed out, or they'll see their father stressed out. And it's like, hey, like, you look like you stressed. Why don't you sit down here and I'll lead you through some breathing. And I think that's where that ripple effect starts to happen, right? Where it's not just the three of us, but when we go into a school, we teach a whole entire school to be teachers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then they all go home and they teach others, and it keeps expanding and growing. And it's like we joke about, it's like love zombies, right? That we're infecting these people with love, and it spreads throughout the entire community. So it's not just the school that gets impacted, but it's everyone. It's the entire area. And I think a big part with the lessons that we do with caregiving is, we remind people how important it is to give from their overflow. We talk about how when you are a caregiver and you're giving, we're willing to set ourselves on fire to keep other people warm. And sometimes we burn out, right? And we're giving and giving. We don't give from 100%. We just keep giving and giving. And now there's only 70% that we have, and we're giving from that, and we're not giving from our full vessel. So we really, really remind people when we're going into these communities, first to take care of yourself so that you have overflow, and then to give from that overflow. And when you do that with the kids, now the kids are taking care of themselves. They're giving from their overflow, but they're actually going out and giving to their parents. And then their parents are seeing it, and they're like, wow, like they realize, hey, maybe I need to start doing this as well. And I really think it becomes that thing where we're like the mirror for everybody. And it's the same concept with the love stuff. It's like Ali said, we don't need to literally talk about it. We just embody it. And when we say I love you every single time we get off the phone, it's only natural for the kids eventually, when they get off the phone with us, they say, I love you too, right back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big part of just, it's like Uncle Will said, it's about being the practice. It's not something you do, it's something you are. And I think it's a big part of our success is the authenticity that we have a practice. And we really hammer that home wherever we go. If you want to be a caregiver, if you want to start spreading these practices and techniques, you have to do it yourself first and see the transformation within you. And then it just naturally flows out of you, and people see it and they want to feel the same way you are. Where, I think a lot of times it's like back when I was saying this over, all our friends were thinking we were crazy and like, we need to get a real job. And they could see us blissing out though. They could see us happy. And we would say, well, I don't understand what you're saying to me. You're telling me to get all this stuff that you have, and you're miserable. And look at us. You're telling us we need more, and we don't have that stuff, and we're very, very happy. So I do think it is that realization of what really, really matters. And I think a big part of it is the practices that we have to be present and to spread love. And I think that's what happens with not only the love retreat that we have, but the caregiver retreat as well, is that we're out there and just reminding people what they really know already. Take care of yourself. Take a moment. Take a breath. Be present. Don't worry about the past and the future. I think all these concepts in my mind, as we've been doing this for so long, seem so simple, but I think that we forget and we get lost in the world for real, and all the bombardment of stimuli, whether it's internal or external.
That's really beautiful, and I'm so glad that Uncle Will had the chance to see your success, and kind of the implications of his teaching as they were spreading out before he passed. That's a very beautiful thought. So what's next for HLF and for each of you, perhaps as individual teachers? Tell me what's cooking. Do you have a vision for what's next?
Yeah. So, we have our satellite program up in Gonzales, the Mohawk Reservation that we have our programs going on at. And I think one of the things coming up is going to be getting a second satellite program, but in a more urban environment. Gonzales is very, very rural, probably about as rural as it gets. But, we really want to find a city to try another satellite program in. Right now it's looking like it may end up being Milwaukee because of the connections that we have there and the schools that we have there. But we're open to where the universe kind of sees it, where all those connections are really made and synchronicities line up. But I think that's one huge thing. I know we want to get back into, we really want to push the certification program just because everybody's traumatized in one way or another. And there are a lot of people talking about being trauma-informed and trauma-informed yoga and trauma-informed mindfulness. But we've seen a lot of people that have said that they've taken trainings and some of the stuff that they're doing is causing more harm than good. And we really want to be able to empower people to help the people around them heal. Because, these practices are made to heal trauma. It's one of the things that yoga specifically is for. Pranayama is definitely for. Meditation is for, if it's taught in the right way. So I think we can't be everywhere. Our staff can't be everywhere. But if we can empower people with the things that we learn here in Baltimore, which has some of the highest ACEs scores in the entire country, if we can, and we were able to show that we can make it work here, they can make it work in their communities too. So I think those are two huge things that we really want to push.
Well, I'll always give a plug for New York City because that would be very convenient for me. So let's bear that in mind when you're looking at different cities.
We're open.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be in all the cities eventually. So let's make it happen. Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much for coming on the podcast. And before we close, I'm hoping one of you can lead us in a practice of some kind, maybe Atman and Lovingkindness, to close our conversation.
Sure. I invite all the listeners out there to, if they feel comfortable enough, they can close their eyes. If they don't want to, they can soften their gaze, close their eyes 9/10 of the way, or they can keep their eyes open, focusing on a point. But if you feel comfortable enough, we definitely recommend that you close your eyes, just because it limits your distractions. All the breathing that we're going to be doing is all in and out through our nose. And we're going to take a couple deep breaths together just to get ourselves grounded. So everyone inhale, long, slow, and deep through your nose, filling your stomach up with air like it's a balloon, filled all the way up. And exhale through your nose, let your belly fall, eventually squeezing your belly button to your spine. Inhale deep again with that long, slow, deep breath, filling your stomach up with air, fill it all the way up. Then exhale through your nose, letting your belly fall, eventually squeezing your belly button to your spine. Inhale deep one more time with that long, slow, deep breath, filling your stomach up with air, fill it all the way up. And exhale through your nose, letting your belly fall, eventually squeezing your belly button to your spine. Now you can just breathe on your own at a nice natural pace. Don't put any effort into it. Just make sure you're breathing in and out through your nose. And we're going to start using our imaginations. With every inhale, you want to feel and see yourself pulling in all the positivity that the earth has to offer you inside your body. With that in-breath, really feel and see that positivity from the earth coming into your body with the breath. And with every exhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pushing out the negativity from within, any stress, any anger, any jealousy or regret, any sicknesses or ailments, anything at all that's inside of us that we know that's not healthy for us. We want to use our imagination and see and feel it leave our body with the breath. So once again, with every inhale, pulling in that positivity from the earth. With every exhale, pushing out that negativity from within. And if you get distracted, have empathy towards yourself, just understanding that is the nature of the human mind to get distracted. Just acknowledge that distraction, whether it's a thought, sound, or sensation, let it pass and bring yourself back to the breath. And once again, on that inhale, pulling in that positivity from the earth. And on that exhale, pushing out that negativity from within. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time with every inhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pulling in all the healing oxygen from the trees, plants, and bodies of water. And we want to feel and see it energize and replenish our internal muscles, bones, and organs. So with every inhale, feel and see that happen. With every exhale, you want to feel and see yourself pushing out the stale carbon dioxide from within, feeding the trees and plants that gave us oxygen. So once again, with every inhale, pulling in that oxygen, energizing your muscles, bones, and organs. And with every exhale, pushing out that stale carbon dioxide, feeding the trees and plants that gave us oxygen. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all you're going to feel and see as you breathe. And this practice is all about extending the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. If you can only stay focused for 3 breaths, then you get distracted. Once again, have empathy towards yourself. Analyze what distracted you. Bring yourself back to the breath and try to get 4 breaths and 5 breaths. Once again, it's all about extending the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. And it's less of a battle with yourself than it is a play. But definitely try to extend the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. And right now, we're focused with every inhale, pulling in that healing oxygen, energizing our muscles, bones, and organs. And with every exhale, pushing out that stale carbon dioxide, feeding the trees and plants that gave us oxygen. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time we're going to focus on all those people that we love, whether it's our family or friends, no matter how far away they live, no matter if they're living or not. Love has absolutely no boundaries. So with our breath, all we're going to focus on is sending our loved ones love with that breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe, sending our loved ones love with the breath, no matter how far away they live, no matter if they're living or not. Always remember, love has absolutely no boundaries. So with our breath, we're sending our loved ones love with our breath. And once again, if you get distracted, just acknowledge the distraction, thought, sound, or sensation. Let it pass, and then bring yourself back to that breath. And once again, sending love to your loved ones with that breath. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time we're going to focus on all those people that stress us out or make us angry, whether it's our family or friends, co-workers or clients, people in our communities, politicians, whoever it is that stresses you out or makes you angry. We're going to send them love with the breath as well. Even though they stress us out or make us angry, they probably need love more than anyone else. And we all know the golden rule: whatever we put out comes back tenfold. So always lead with love. So once again, with our breath, we're sending love to those people that stress us out or make us angry. We're sending them love with the breath. This is a great way to evict people from renting space in your mind, or in other words, a release. sending love to those people that stress you out or make you angry with the breath. Whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all you're going to feel and see as you breathe. Sending those people love that stress you out or make you angry with every breath. And one of the beautiful things about this practice is that there is no right or wrong, there just is. So just feel confident that whatever you're seeing and feeling as you breathe is exactly what you are supposed to see and feel as you breathe. Sending love to those people that stress you out or make you angry, we're sending them love with the breath. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And we sent love to people that we love. We sent love to people that stress us out or make us angry. Now it's time to send love to the most important person in your life, and that's yourself. Starting off with your inner foundation full of self-love and taking care of yourself makes it that much easier to love and take care of others going forward without burning yourself out. So with our breath, all we're going to do is send our self-love, our true self-love, with every breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all you're going to feel and see as you breathe. Sending ourselves love with the breath, filling up our inner foundation with love of self with every breath. And another beautiful thing about this practice is when you do get distracted, you can always begin again. And the way that you begin again is anchoring yourself with the breath. And once you get anchored, we're going to focus on sending love to ourselves with every breath. And whatever you feel and see is exactly what you're supposed to be feeling and seeing as you breathe. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time with our breath, we're going to send love to planet Earth or Mother Earth and all the inhabitants that reside within, animals, plants, humans, inanimate objects, anything at all that resides within planet Earth or Mother Earth and Mother Earth herself. We're sending love with the breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all you're going to feel and see as you breathe. Sending love to planet Earth or Mother Earth and all the inhabitants that reside within, animals, plants, humans, inanimate objects, anything at all that resides within planet Earth or Mother Earth and Mother Earth herself. We're sending love with every breath. And once again, this is all about extending the amount of breaths so that you can remain focused. If you do lose focus, have empathy towards yourself, understanding that is the nature of the human mind to get distracted. Just, acknowledge the distraction. Don't fight with it. Let it pass. And when it does pass, bring yourself back to that breath. And once again, sending love to planet Earth or Mother Earth and all the inhabitants that reside within with every breath. All right, if your eyes are closed, we're going to keep them closed and we're going to slowly bring ourselves away from the breath and back to our bodies. So you can start off just by wiggling your toes, you can wiggle your fingers, you can roll your ankles and your wrists. You can do a neck roll both ways to stretch your neck out, or you can turn your head from side to side. It's completely up to you to stretch your neck out. And then whenever you get ready, you can slowly open your eyes and come back to your senses. Thank you for practicing.
Well, thank you so much. It was really wonderful. It was wonderful to have some time together. Thank you for being here with us all, and thank you for the incredible work that you're bringing into the world.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing your platform with us. We love you and appreciate you.
Love you too.
With the book, and we can't wait to get our copies.
Yes.
Hey folks, thanks for listening. If you're still here, you have come to the end of the podcast. So if you'd like to learn more about the great work that the Holistic Life Foundation is doing, you can head over to their website, holisticlifefoundation.org. And also get a copy of their book, Let Your Light Shine, which is available in all the places. And if you'd like to get yourself a copy of Kind Karl the book, you can head over to SharonSalzberg.com. This has been the Metta Hour podcast on the Be Here Now network. May you be safe, may you be happy, may you be healthy, and may you live with ease.